Okay, hi, this is Pax. I'm working on the third video in regards to DPS. The last one I just finished. I was showing you where to test some of your current setup. I was talking to you about this combat matrix, and I was talking about this the relationship between the spell damage, critical damage percentage, chance of getting critical damage, and then when you get it, what kind of critical damage of that you're going to keep, or if it's 150, 110%, then you're going to get more than what you had, and the spell pin. And I think I started to touch on this graph. It just looks funny. That's why I'm pausing. This is not as useful as I used to remember it. That one's better. It's just it doesn't look very good what it used to. This is as close as possible. So what good this is, what I mentioned before, is this shows you. I'll move my cursor over it. So it says DPS smooth, DPS total. Yeah. I don't, anyway, so the idea is this shows you how the time it goes through and whether you've spiked or where it goes down. Where did you do the most damage? This probably looks better the longer the fight is, right? And so you want to see how long or where you are, if how steady it was, how consistent, how well you fight. So it kind of helps you do that. I wouldn't fool with this till later. I would stick on this stat and maybe a couple of these, right? And kind of look through what are you doing here, which one's working for you, what isn't, etc. But anyway, in this video, I want to talk about um, the gear that I have here, along with the skills that I have on this guy, and try to show kind of the relationship between the two of how you might build your character. So I'm going to show you how I did this one, and then you can relate it to however you're going to do yours. So here here's the thing, and I know this is about DPS, but there's other consideration in the your gear and things like that about your character. So here an example would be so a football example would be you have the offensive game, defensive game, you have the kicking game, you have time, the time management game, managing your time, and whatever. You have the passing and the running game and all that stuff, right? Well, you have those kinds of things in your character. So let me say, so you have your DPS, okay, but you also have your sustain, which means I'm running out of magic, I'm running out of whatever. My sustain is terrible. Okay, so you have your DPS, your sustain, because remember, if you don't sustain, your DPS is going to go in the toilet. Another one is, are you you know a glass cannon? Are you going to fall over dead? If you're dead, you're not doing any DPS, right? So it makes how tough you are makes a difference on how well you're going to last, right? That's part of the game. And so I want to cover at least those three in relation to my. And here's another one too. I want to throw this in there. Is there's also utility that factors in your especially when you do the DLC content, and I'll touch on that, and that's going to affect. You want to maintain your DPS, you want to do all these damage, but at the same time there's going to be utility things that you're going to need to do that you need to consider, that you're either going to help your team, help yourself, etc. And that'll make sense when I show you what I'm doing and how I did it and why I did it. So it's going to be this this video is going to be the relationship between the gear, the skills, in this bar, and so I'm going to try that together at least on this video. So let me start with the gear real quick. It's because it's pretty straightforward, somewhat straightforward. So one of the 5-piece sets, and I probably should talk about that for a real quick second. So I'm just going to hit on it. I could probably do another video on this. But in this case, this guy's a Templar. Let's just tell you what he is. So he's a Templar, High Elf Templar. And he is mostly, I set him up as range. However, he does do some close up stuff too. Okay. And the only reason he does is because he's really good at it. So, or I wouldn't do it. Okay. So I'll show you that here in a second. So for damage in general, it's Mother Sorrow for the 5-piece, which is going to be his jewelry and his staff. And I'm going to come back to the staves in a minute. Also, when you guys see this gold, you don't need gold. That's just to show, you got money to blow, right? Purple is fine. If you go look at the purple and the gold, there is very little difference, and gold is definitely money wise is not worth the bang for the buck for sure. So this is just extra nonsense to go gold, okay? But you can, and I did, okay? But don't worry, purple is just fine, okay? So um, the next 5-piece set is False God, and this one, although there is, let's read it. So the second item, you're doing more critical damage, and the same thing with the fourth item. But the third item, it's just increased damage in those instances. I get Minor Slayer all the time, and does this 5% in the dungeons, which is great, right? But the fifth item, that's what's the most important with this set, and that has to do with sustain. So let's look at it. It says reduce the cost of my magic abilities. Woohoo! Great, right? 8%. And then it says when an enemy you recently damaged dies, it restores almost 2,500 magic. So think of it. If I have a group, and we'll get into this, an area damage, and I kill them, I'm not running out of anything. My sustain game. This is all about sustain. As long as I'm killing things, I am just rolling in the magicka. Okay, and then you can go into this occurs every sec. Who cares about the speed? Although that's nice, but that's not really what this set is important. It's helping you with damage and sustain, big time sustain. Okay, so you're doing damage on this one, and also mention there's the bloodthirsty that's going to give you more. The enchantment is spell damage on all of these, more damage. On the staff, on both of these are precise. A lot of people use infused. I don't. I'll get into why. And there's nothing wrong with infused. That can be totally proper on different builds. This one, the way I run it, how I hold it, it's not. So I have on both staff, I got precise, which increases my critical spell critical percentage at all times. And then I want to point out that on both of these, you'll see that increase, the same enchantment on both of these. And that's because of how I do it. The big difference between these two is, excuse me, the big difference between these is my front bar is Infernal Staff, and my back bar is, man, you can't even see it. It's a Lightning Staff. Okay? Can't read it. It's not on the screen. Okay? And then this is my sustain, those 5-piece. Now we get into the Monster Helm. On this particular guy, I'm using Mighty Chujon, and you can look at it, and you can see first item adds more armor, second item gives me more health, and then the more important thing is gain major resolve at all times, increasing my physical and spell resistance almost 6k. So, and you can see that right over here. If you look at this, the max of these two that you can have, like a tank, is 32,000. And look how high mine are. Okay? So this makes this guy very tanky. He can take some hit. He's not a tank. He doesn't have enough hit health for that, okay? But he can take some hits, and I'll get into that. And how I play, I need to. But he has a good sustain game, excellent damage, and he can take a hit. So that's kind of the gear part. So let's jump over here at the skills. So we'll start on the bar number 1. Now, the way I did this is nothing rocket science. Bar number one is single target, and bar number two, I mean, being generalized, is area damage. Okay, so the way I think about it is a lot of these rotations and stuff. And by the way, when I tell you that I'm doing this, you could do it whatever you want. I'm just trying to tell you what I did and tell you the philosophy behind it so you can do your own thing. It's your puppet, right? However you want to do it. And the reason that's so important is, and I'm generalizing here, look at it like this: your character is basically, when it comes to DPS, the first one third is going to be your, your gear, your skills, that kind of stuff. The next third is going to be your champion points and, you know, you know, your, some of those other things. And the next third is going to be how well you play the character. So, and that's so important. So I'll give you an example. If I have, let's say, I have a handgun, it's got laser sighting, it's perfect, and I take this handgun and I shoot it, and it's bullseye, 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 and I hand the same exact gun to you. I just hand it over to you, and you take it, and you go miss, 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 miss. It's the same gun. It's just I'm good at my with that gun, and you're not, right? So you want to build a puppet that you're good at doing damage. Okay, so this is what I did for me. That's good for me, and I'm going to tell you why. But you're going to have to look at your own and look at the philosophy and build it for you, or tweak your for you, because you might, for whatever purpose that you're going to do. So anyway, for this one, back on this. So the front bar is single target. The back bar is area damage. And the way I look at it is, if I come in a room and the light is off, I don't think about it. I just flip the switch and now it's on. If the light is on and I want to shut it off, I flip it off. I don't think about it. I don't think of a rotation. I have to have 1, 2, 3 bar swap, 1 bar swap, 2, 4 bar swap, like a rotation. I don't play that way, because when I do a battle, it's dynamic. And one of the dynamic, because it changes all the time depending on whatever the circumstances is, who I'm fighting, what happened, whatever craziness that's happening. So, but what I can do as a switch is whether I'm doing area damage versus a single target. So if I'm like, just what I showed you before, when I fought in here and I fought, where am I? Okay, if I come fight this group, like here, I can come in and I know I'm going to do area damage, right? I'm doing area damage, area damage, area damage, and they're dead. Now I can switch. I'm doing single target damage because that's what's needed. And now he's dead. And see, I didn't think, what's my rotation? I just did it. With practice, I do area damage, single target, and I may flip back because they may be spread out or something, or now they're grouped together. The tank got them grouped, or the tank had enough time to group them together. So the difference between my bar is based on single and area damage, and so let's get back into that and see the relationship with the gear. So if you look at the first bar, it's a flame staff, and the second one is a lightning staff. So let's go look at the skills, and let's go look at the weapon down to destruction staff, and let's look at these passives. I'm not going to hit all these and bore you, okay? I just want you to get an idea of what I'm talking about. So if I come down here and you see it says, let's look at this first one. It says flame staff, heavy attacks deal 12% of different damage, and shock staff does nearby enemies 100% of the damage. So right here, just in this passive, that supports my single target versus heavy damage. Not 100%, but you see it. But if you can come down here, where is it? Right here. You can see equipping a flame staff increase your damage done with a single target by 8%. See the next one? Equipping a lightning staff increases your damage done with area effect abilities by 8%. So when I go back and forth, I'm still getting 8% more damage because of these passives on this destruction staff, just because how I laid out my bar. Okay? So anyway, there's that. Okay? So there's where it starts. So let's go down the front bar. So this first one, I use crushing shocks. I don't do a lot of weaving, as you saw in the battle. I didn't do any weaving. I don't even think I used crushing shock. Okay, I mean we can actually go look at it. I'm not going to spend any time on. You don't even here. I didn't crushing shock wasn't even an ability that I used. So if you guys don't know what I mean by weaving, um, is there anything around here I can weave on? Here, I'll just do these idiots. So like when I go like this, I'm weaving on that one guy, right? That's weaving. Okay, that takes too long, right? Shake it off, you old man. Give me my stuff. Okay, so now I do weaving. That's a single target type thing, but it depends on the battle. And let me get back in here. So this weaving, if we look at this, the way I have it morphed, it says, and what's important in this one is the second part where it says, enemies hit while casting are interrupted and off balance for 3. Now that's why it's there. It's a utility for interrupt. In certain instances, let's say there's somebody across the thing, and we're like a tank or something, they would bash to interrupt the guy, right? Me, I can weave on them, and I'm interrupting them. So if on some of the harder content, somebody might need interrupted, or we need to keep them interrupted, or we're dead, or it's going to cause a lot of problems. I could sit there and weave on them and interrupt them, or I can interrupt them and see it say interrupted, and then do some other stuff, and then switch back and keep interrupting them to prevent them from doing something. So there's that utility piece, and that utility piece. Remember, if I'm knocked over, or I'm dead, or getting slapped around, or I can't put some damage on them, my DPS is going to go down. So depending on the circumstances, that interrupt is very nice to have. I mean, super nice depending on circumstance, and you're doing damage. So the next one here for me, I have it slotted to get the max magic and increase my percentage. Now, if you notice here, I have it on both bars, and the number 2, I have it ghosted out. That's because I unbound number 2 key. And the reason I did that, if you look at this, the cost is 3,539, and I'm only using it because it's slotted. I don't want to actually use it because I mean this is really for maybe PvP, to find somebody and this other stuff. And I don't want to accidentally spend, actually hit it and spend 3,539 magicka. So I just disabled the key. Okay, that's just how I did it. So let's go on to the next one. This one here is a breath of life. This is I can do it for I rarely use this. I morally do it for other team members. Somebody's going to die. I hit them with the breath of life. The reason I don't normally do it with me, I'll show you because it's the next skill. And remember, if you're resing somebody or whatever because they're dead, you're not doing DPS, right? But I would rather hit them with the breath of life before I would want to res them. Okay? And so it's another utility. And then these are the two that are, I mean, yeah, you're doing damage, but I don't really weave. But I'm definitely doing this puncturing sweep. This one looks like this. And this is a big one. And the reason it's a big one is if you look at it, it says, does a lot of damage. It really is an area. It does the people next, but I'm putting it in the single target. But every time I hit them, look at the last line. It says it heals me for 40% of the damage. So unless I can't touch them, if I can't touch them, then I'm in trouble. I'll do a breath of life, right? But if I can, I'll just use it up here, right? If I come up here and I'm stabbing these guys, that's all I'm doing, stabbing. I'm doing damage to them. Shake it off, and it's healing me, right? I'm not invulnerable, but unless I run out of magic, then I'm dead. So I didn't do really squat to this guy, except peck him to death. I just pecked them all to death. That's just too good of a skill. I mean, that's too good a one to pass up, right? And that's why it's there. Okay? And if you remember when I fought the giant in my other video, I even counted. I said I counted as I was stabbing it. 1, 2, 3, and then I did my Jesus beam. I can't do it because I'm not fighting any. Which we're going to look at that next skill right now. So this Jesus beam, that's what they call it, this radiant glory. What it is, it says it burns an enemy, right? Dealing a lot of damage, but look at us, it deals up to 480% more damage if the enemy is below 50%. Now this one, I have it on different characters. You got a morph. This one is similar to this health 40%. You see the last one, it says it heals me. Because this has a channel time, um, this one, I sometimes in the harder DLCs, you don't want to get caught in a channel and get beat up. Well, if you are, you're going to get some healing out of it. Now you can do a morph to do 20% even more damage instead of doing that. That is an option. This particular guy, I have it just giving me, healing me. But anyway, back on this before. So I may be doing this one or either weaving or stabbing with whatever I'm hitting on a single target on the first 50% of damage on them. And then on this back one, I'm beam them if they're 50% or less. And this is a new change in ESO, but it used to be this bloodthirsty, you do more damage when it was down to 25%. Now it's a steady increase down, starting at 90%. You see it on the trait, bloodthirsty. So these rings go hand in hand with this, even more this Jesus beam damage on a single target. And then I'm just going to touch on this. This is a shooting star. It's a guild mage one. Um, I'm not a huge fan of this one. There's another one that I might substitute for this one, and that would be this. What is it? It would be Soul. This one here, this Shattered. It's got quite a bit of damage, but the whole point between these two is that when you get a an instance where instead of, because the real ultimate that I would rather want to do is on the back bar. This one here is the bomb, this thunderous rage. But if you use this one, the target has to be fixed. It can't be moving around. So if you want to use an ultimate and your boss or whatever you're doing is moving around, then this one, they can't get away from the shooting star, and they cannot get away from this soul magic. And the difference between which one of these, because they cost about the same, 166 versus 190, it's about the same. But the thing is, this sticks you in a channel for 5 seconds, or this one's instant. You don't just hit it and you're out of here. So, depending on how you play, those can be a toss up. Then last thing I want to point on this before we go on to the next bar is if you look at these types of things. So let's go back to this weapon. So if I have this one slotted, then I am, unless it says differently, I'm getting these passives. Okay. Now I am getting these passive because it just says with a destruction staff equipped. So it's not getting any bonus on this because I have it here. I get these bonus because I have the staff, but not all of them are like that. So some of these you read through there, the more of these skills you have, the more you get. Okay. So here on Inner Light, I think that's what is that magic mage? I think it is here. So now I'm getting these passive. You have to read them. Just giving you an idea. So the more of these I have in relationship to these areas, this one here is what is it? Restoration. So I'm going to get these. This one here is puncturing sweep. So I get these. And this is Dawn Wrath. So I get these. This one here is I don't know, what is it? Is it mage? Yeah, it's mage. Or if I don't, whatever these passes are, if I switch to this soul, then I would get these. They're probably not as important. So you can look at those passive and look at the certain situation and see which combinations and things that make sense, having more of one and etc. So let me go on because this video is turning out a little longer than I wanted. So now we go back here on bar 2, which is area damage. So let me jump right into this. This one here, I usually do before I go into battle because it runs for so long, and this is going to increase my critical damage. We already talked about this on the front bar. I also have that number 2 disabled, but this one here, it's going to cast a shard, which is an area damage. It looks like this. It also has a utility because they can synergize off of it. If you see on here, it says at the very bottom, it says any allied near the spear can activate the blessing shard, restoring almost 4,000 magicka or stamina, whichever their max is higher. So that's another utility, plus it does a lot of damage. Here is this orb. It looks like it looks like this. Okay, that we can just read it. That is a Undaunted right here. So it does damage, and then they can synergize it too to do damage. And it also gives them, see, it restores them almost 4,000 magic or stamina. So another utility does damage, but then it helps utility. Both these help your ally. So if you look at this, interrupt, that can help everybody and you. I can do Breath of Life and save someone, help someone, including myself. I can give them Shard and Orb. They can get some magic off us. So there's utility in this setup. And then this one here is the Shock Ring. It just does a lot of area damage. It's pretty potent. And then you can read that this does a lot of area damage. It's an ultimate. One other thing I'd throw in here. Sometimes on certain, aren't you cute? Sometimes on certain dungeons, DLC dungeons, sometimes they need a taunt because you need. I'm trying. The first thing that comes to mind is the what is it? What is it? It's even in here. It's the Dragon Star Arena. So then the last boss on there is a place where you want to, there's 2 people that need to do taunt. And so sometimes I'll drop that in here temporarily, and then I have a taunt. I mean, remember, I'm a little bit tanky, so I can hold it off for a little bit or do what I need to do. One other thing on this channeled acceleration, it's not DPS, but I wanted to point out, this is in the Sigic order. It also has this barrier. So if you see here, see this damage shield? That's a 5k damage shield that I can instantly hold on there. So I don't have to cast a spell, but I literally can, let me walk up here. I can hit these guys. I can put on my damage shield. I can move, do damage all at the same time, and work around these guys and, do whatever. So there's a bonus in that. Okay, so try to finish off this video. So I talked about the gear, the relationship between that and the skills, the bars, and you just have to read down these when you build your character on how you want to do it, how you want to fight, what makes sense. It's like a recipe, right? You're going to make pancakes. You're the pancake. What ingredients are you going to put all these things together and make a character that you like, is a very enjoyable to play, and it does what that you need to do instead of a cookie cutter, rotation 1, 2, 3 bars, blah, whatever, right? That somebody else invented. You want to invent your own for what that you're going to have fun to play, that you're good at. Okay, so this will be it to this video. Sorry it was so long. It is what it is, and I will catch you in the next video.